watching All 24 News World News Program, broadcasting to you live from the capital, Algiers. And up next are tonight's top stories. Talks between the US and Iran ended in Switzerland on Sunday. Washington is optimistic, but Iran is sticking to its enrichment plans, despite Trump's threats over the Strait of Hormuz. Algeria scores big. The Trans-Saharan pipeline gets the green light. The country is off the FATF grey list, and it's doubling down on gas for a fair energy transition. An outcry over Western Sahara calls for a UN investigation into disappearances and mass graves, with Spain under pressure over Morocco's violations. First off in our news tonight, the first round of US-Iran technical talks wrapped up on Sunday in Switzerland. The goal was a final deal to implement the memorandum signed during Islamabad negotiations. Sources say the opening session did not address Iran's nuclear program. Earlier Sunday, Pakistan's Prime Minister announced the start of direct talks, calling them the result of intensive efforts by his country and partners. He voiced hope for a peace agreement. Qatar also weighed in, expressing hope the meetings lead to a comprehensive agreement covering all aspects of last Wednesday's memorandum.
Gentlemen, it's a great day. A day which is going to promote peace and prosperity, not only in the region where crisis really created humongous challenges, but this will have global peace.
As the first day of the US-Iran talks closed in Switzerland, attention turned to renewed tensions around the Strait of Hormuz amid ongoing Zionist occupation aggression on Lebanon. Marwa reports.
Footage from Switzerland's Birkenstock may project the image of diplomacy in motion, but behind these scenes lies a very different reality. A closed maritime corridor and a continued aggression on Lebanon, along with increasingly sharp rhetoric from Washington, as US President Donald Trump has threatened to hit Iran, quote, much harder. On the eve of talks, Tehran said it closed the Strait of Hormuz again over the Zionist entity's attacks on Lebanon. Iran's Fars news agency cited a military source as saying on Sunday that no new permits were being issued for ships to cross the strait. In return, Trump said he'll impose American tolls in the waterway if a final deal isn't reached. His comments didn't go unanswered, with Parliament Speaker and top negotiator Mohammad Bagher Kalibaf warning that Iranian armed forces are prepared to respond through action. The Memorandum of Understanding, signed last week between Iran and the US, foresees 60 days of talks on issues such as Iran's nuclear program and the lifting of international sanctions. But with the ongoing hostilities in southern Lebanon, Tehran said Sunday's meeting would cover only the MOU implementation without the substantive issues set for the next stage.
The issue of Lebanon received more emphasis than anything else, naturally, if with regard to Lebanon, which is one of the principal fronts where the end of the war must be declared. If this does not happen, then the subsequent issue will certainly not be negotiated.
Yet, besides the escalating pressure coming from Washington, Vice President J.D. Vance presented a more conciliatory rhetoric in Switzerland as he's leading the U.S. negotiating team.
This is a historic meeting. Never before, outside of Islamabad and here, so outside the last few months, never before has the Iranian and American leadership met at such a high level. What the President has asked us to do is turn over a new leaf, to transform our relationship with the people of Iran. Well, first of all, we've seen great progress over the last just couple of days in ensuring that the ceasefire holds in Lebanon. These things are always a little bit messy. If you go back to how much was happening 3 months ago and compare it to 3 weeks ago, great progress has been made.
As the first day of talks wrapped up, the fact that both sides sat on the negotiating table offered a degree of cautious optimism, but Lebanon remains one of the most contentious issues on the agenda, with the Zionist entity vowing to keep its forces in the south, violating the main conditions of the interim deal.
Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian said Iran is not seeking nuclear weapons, but it will not give up its right to enrich uranium. In remarks broadcast on Iranian television on Sunday, Pezeshkian stated that Washington has no option but to accept Iran's right to enrichment, and in that Tehran is prepared to provide written confirmation that it has no intention of developing a nuclear bomb.
We will not give up our right to enrichment, and they, too, will be forced to accept it. You all know what the so-called President of the United States was saying. He was saying that Iran must surrender unconditionally. Iran has no right to do this. It has no right to do that. Then he gave a speech and said that Iran has the right to do this. It has the right to possess this. In other words, he has reversed himself by 180 degrees compared to the previous positions, and has accepted that they cannot ignore our rights.
The Tasnim news agency said the Strait of Hormuz will remain closed as long as the Zionist occupation continues to violate the ceasefire, adding that the United States has not issued waivers for Iranian oil sales. It quoted a senior source as saying the Iranian Navy maintains control over the Strait of Hormuz and that will remain closed until oil export waivers are granted. At least 8 people, including a soldier, were killed and others wounded in Zionist occupation shelling on Lebanon on Sunday. The Lebanese Health Ministry said 5 people, including a child, a woman, and 2 elderly men were killed in an airstrike on the Western Bekaa Valley in eastern Lebanon. 2 others were killed in shelling on the Tyre district of southern Lebanon. The Lebanese army said a soldier died of wounds sustained in a previous strike on a military post, also in Tyre. The Lebanese Deputy Prime Minister Tariq Mitri warned that the presence of Zionist occupation forces risks turning into a permanent occupation ahead of the talks under U.S. auspices.
We're hoping that the negotiations, the Lebanese-Israeli negotiations under U.S. auspices, that is resuming on the 22nd of this month. We hope that the issue of withdrawal will be put on the table. Many of us are skeptical. Israel has had many war objectives. One is to obliterate or eliminate Hezbollah, but the other objective was to create a so-called security zone south of what they call the Yellow Line, which is tantamount to permanent occupation and depopulation of their villages. We fear that Israeli withdrawal is not going to smoothly occur in the immediate future.
Occupation airstrikes on displaced people camps in Gaza on Sunday killed 3 people, including a child, and injured several others. Medical sources told Wafa that a child and a young man were killed in strikes targeting displaced people west of Khan Yunis. Another person was killed in a bombing of a school sheltering displaced families in the Shati refugee camp west of Gaza City. President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, congratulated the finance sector on Algeria's removal from the FATF grey list. Chairing a cabinet meeting on Sunday, he said the decision reflects recognition of reforms and ordered continued strict oversight and transparency in financial transactions. On the Lawat-Ghardai and Mnia railway project, President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, ordered the acceleration of works on the strategic line, underscoring its economic impact, job creation, and financing phase. He also stressed the need to extend the line to Hassi Massoud, saying it would cut costs and distances and boost exports from the upcoming refinery. The Financial Action Task Force, the FATF, has removed Algeria from its grey list, citing recent reforms to strengthen financial transparency in compliance with the international standards. The move is expected to boost investor confidence and improve the country's investment climate. Safin Kantar has more.
Algeria has officially been removed from the Financial Action Task Force grey list, making a major milestone after years of financial, regulatory and legislative reforms aimed at strengthening the country's anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing framework. The decision, endorsed during the FATF meeting in Paris, reflects growing international confidence in Algeria's financial system and its ability to meet global compliance standards. It also highlights the importance Algeria has attached to financial transparency and the fight against illicit financial activities through a series of institutional and legal reforms.
This will allow Algeria to further improve its economic image on the global stage and encourage greater inflows of foreign investment, particularly as the country has, in recent years, focused on attracting high-value investments that can generate significant returns. It will also strengthen Algeria's position by supporting efforts to increase exports outside the hydrocarbon sectors and enhance the competitiveness of key strategic industries.
The outcome follows what international participants described as significant progress by Algeria in preventing and combating financial crimes. Delegates attended the meeting at the headquarters of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development in Paris, acknowledged the reforms undertaken by Algerian authorities over the past several years. In parallel, Algeria has strengthened its legal framework to improve financial transparency and oversight, adopting a risk-based approach to the supervision of associations and non-profit organizations while aligning its regulations with international standards. The removal from the grey list is expected to have positive implications for Algeria's investment climate. Analysts say the decision could boost investor confidence, facilitate relations between Algerian banks and international correspondent banks, and support greater flows of foreign capital into the country's economy, reinforcing ongoing efforts to diversify growth and attract investment.
Algerian Minister of State and Minister of Hydrocarbons Mohamed Arqab reaffirmed Algeria's commitment to supporting dialogue and cooperation among members of the Gas Exporting Countries Forum. During a meeting with the GECF Secretary General Philippe Michel Bella, Arqab stressed Algeria's focus on developing infrastructure and energy interconnection projects to strengthen energy security and the role of natural gas in the global energy mix.
We've also attached special importance to the Gas Research Institute, whose headquarters are hosted by Algeria. We stress the need to accelerate the activation of this institute in order to strengthen its scientific and research programs, enabling it to become a reference center for research, innovation, and capacity development in the field of natural gas and related technologies, serving the member states and the global gas industry. In this context, I reaffirmed Algeria's readiness to place its extensive experience in the natural gas industry at the service of the Forum and its member countries. Algeria has consistently been among the world's leading nations in the development of liquefied natural gas industry and possesses more than 6 decades of experience in production, transportation, management, and marketing. This valuable expertise can be leveraged to strengthen cooperation, facilitate the exchange of knowledge and experience, and build capacities within the Forum.
On a related note, Algeria and the Gas Exporting Countries Forum welcomed progress on the Trans-Saharan Gas Pipeline project, which reflects cooperation between Algeria, Niger, and Nigeria. Both sides stressed the strategic importance for regional integration, sustainable development, and strengthening energy security for transit countries and global markets.
We also turned to the Trans-Saharan Gas Pipeline project, a strategic project linking Algeria, Niger, and Nigeria, which contribute to strengthening economic integration and sustainable development in the region, as well as supporting the energy security of transit countries and international markets. We welcomed the progress made and the actual launch of this important project, which embodies the three countries' will to enhance energy cooperation and partnership.
Algeria has demonstrated very strong support to the GECF and to the promotion of gas utilization globally, but also in Africa. And we're very pleased to have had some discussions on the Trans-Sahara Gas Pipeline, where Algeria has already broken ground and is working with Nigeria and hopefully going forward with many other countries to ensure that the gas that is produced in Africa is also utilized for the development of Africa. And when we have more, we can then export also to Europe and the Mediterranean and other places.
In this context, the Algerian Minister of State and Minister of Hydrocarbons stressed the strategic role of natural gas, describing it as a key resource for global energy security, an essential pillar in a balanced and equitable energy transition.
We also emphasized the importance of uniting effort to highlight the pivotal role of natural gas in achieving global energy security and supporting sustainable development, as it is a primary energy source that contributes to accompanying the energy transition and ensuring a balanced and equitable transition that takes into account the specificities of producing countries and the needs of consuming countries.
For his part, the GECF Secretary General Philip Michel Bella praised Algeria's key role in the forum, noting its status as a founding member that has helped strengthen its position over the past 25 years. Following his meeting with the Algerian Minister of State and Minister of Hydrocarbons, he said he was satisfied with the level of cooperation with Algeria and expressed a desire to further deepen the partnership in the coming period.
Algeria is one of our founding members, and as we celebrate 25 years this year of the existence of the GECF, we are proud of the membership of Algeria and all of its contributions that it has made to ensure that the GECF has remained strong and continues to grow. Not only was Algeria a founding member, it is also the country that is hosting our Gas Research Institute. And this is one of the reasons that I'm actually here, is to try and ensure that we can make the GRI operational so that we can begin to get the benefit for which it was established.
Algeria is expanding its influence within the African Union, securing key leadership roles across several strategic committees. These appointments further enforce its growing role in shaping continental policies on governance, development, and integration. More on this story with Semenesif this time.
Algeria has further strengthened its diplomatic standing in Africa by securing a number of influential positions within the African Union, reinforcing its role as a key player in continental affairs. Among the most significant developments in the appointment of Ambassador Mohamed Khalid, Algeria's permanent representative to the African Union, as head of the Permanent Representatives Committee overseeing issues related to human rights, democracy, and governance. In addition, Algeria has gained membership in several strategic bodies, including the committee responsible for monitoring Agenda 2063, the panel handling African nominations for international positions, and committees focused on environmental protection, transportation, culture, and migration challenges. These appointments reflect the high level of trust and recognition Algeria enjoys among African nations, as well as its reputation as a reliable partner committed to regional stability and cooperation. By taking on these responsibilities, Algeria will play a more active role in shaping policies and advancing priorities that support peace, economic progress, and greater integration across the continent. The latest appointments also reaffirm Algeria's commitment to its Pan-African vision, advocating for a stronger, more united Africa that can effectively defend its interests and make its voice heard internationally. With an extending presence in the African Union's decision-making structures, Algeria continues to enhance its influence and contributes to defining the future direction of the continent.
Algerian Minister of State and Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf arrived in Amman on Sunday for an official visit to Jordan. He will hold talks with his Jordanian counterpart Ayman Safadi on bilateral relations and take part in the Arab ministerial meetings on regional developments and the Arab League Council's 165th session, both scheduled for Monday. To a different story now. The Association of Families of Sahrawi Detainees and Disappeared Persons called for an independent international investigation into enforced disappearances and mass graves. Marking the day of the disappeared Sahrawi on June 20th, it urged an end to impunity and renewed demands for truth, justice, and reparations for victims and families. The Association of Families of Sahrawi Detainees and Missing Persons reminded Madrid of its legal and historical responsibility toward the Sahrawi cause. It said Spain, as the former administrative power, is obliged to protect the Sahrawi people and called for an investigation into violations linked to its withdrawal and the incomplete decolonization process in 1975, which it said paved the way for Morocco's control over Western Sahara. Qadesad announced the seizure of Sahrawi lands, destruction of civilian homes, and their transfer to foreign investors, aimed at entrenching the status quo in Western Sahara. At the UN Special Committee on Decolonization in New York, CODESA called for an independent monitoring mission to document land and property violations, stressing that any related projects require the consent of the Sahrawi people as the sovereign authority.
For years, the Moroccan occupation has been carrying out continuous operations to confiscate land owned or used by Sahrawis, both in rural areas and along the Atlantic coast of territory. According to the report, the seizure of Sahrawi land, destruction of civilian homes, and the transfer of these properties to foreign companies and investors aimed at entrenching the colonial status quo and internationalizing the occupation.
Elsewhere in Africa, 4 people were killed and 10 others wounded after the RSF struck a fuel station in Kosti, Nile State, southern Sudan. And North Kordofan explosions were reported in Waba following an RSF drone attack. The Sudanese Doctors Network accused the RSF of targeting civilian sites, saying it worsens the humanitarian crisis. And another topical development, Russian authorities said 5 people were killed and 28 others injured in Ukrainian strikes on Crimea and the Krasnodar region. Crimea's governor reported 4 deaths on the peninsula, while Krasnodar officials said 1 person was killed in a fair drone strike that also set fire to an oil terminal and disrupted Kerch Strait services. And in Ukraine, 3 people were killed in Russian strikes on Poltava and Dnipropetrovsk, with several others wounded. And finally, in football news, the Algerian national football team arrived in San Francisco early Sunday morning ahead of their match against Jordan on Tuesday in the group round of Group J at the 2026 World Cup. The team traveled from Kansas City after a training camp in Lawrence, Texas. They held their final session there on Saturday evening at Rock Chalk Park, focusing on technical and tactical work under coach Vladimir Petkovic. And that brings us to the end of our news program for tonight. But to catch up on any part you missed or get the latest updates, you can always visit our social media platforms. On behalf of all 24 News team, I'm Islam Sid signing out. Thank you for watching and take care.